Wifeful today, I missed this reply somewhat somehow. In terms of the call saying you're confused and stuff, there's going to be cognitive commentary in this, and you seem confused about the system now. I've replied to various people on this, but for one thing, some confusion I could take responsibility for by trying to clarify here once again. The pen issue is that I believe I should have access to these things that have already been negotiated and a bulk production has been arranged. Okay. That relates to the commissary in the sense that we already have low-cost items to go in that commissary. Two, the pen, the basic government pen that we're talking about, and there's other pens, is not some high-tech specification. It's a minimal specification. You talking about on the battlefield, it's the same in a post office or in just any government office. It's inefficient and costly on a grand scale if, you're creating more waste than you need to, or a pen doesn't work. It doesn't matter that it's 5,000 feet of ink. It matters that it actually will do that. Whereas I look for the big specification, they make claims that I find not credible. It's the consistency. Okay. Now, I'm not going to accept some of this standard economic thinking that you're talking about because I have objections to it. You mentioned the invisible hand. Sorry, not going for it. This it works on its own kind of. That's not going to work. This is the anti-engineering attitude that you have. But also that economies are about the allocation of scarce resources. Really? What about common resources? What about the allocation of commodities? Because that's what I'm talking about. So maybe it's not even economics that I'm talking about. It's just survival. But your objection to the concept of engineering, first of all, I don't care. People tend to think, oh, well, engineering is this precise and perfect. That's not how real engineering is. Bridges aren't perfect. The precision goes to, well, what are the stresses? What are the limitations, the specifications of the end result, right? And the thing is, it's not just that one term. It's planning, which you brought into it. You say in this video, I want to control. And nothing that I have said has been about the whole economy. And in fact, I've said I don't want a whole fixed economy. I've said I believe in markets where the individual discretion can be utilized. But still you persist in saying, oh, I want to control the market. I never said I wanted to control the pens. I said they're already, many times, they're already being made. They already have a consistent specification. I'm not trying to change that. I'm saying this is the kind of thing we could utilize to provide cheap goods to retirees, metaphorically. Now, to actually create physical commissaries would be a huge project, but we have post office in every town in the country. We managed to pull that off. We have a military. That's a much larger endeavor than what I'm talking about. And furthermore, I never said it had to be a brick and mortar. It's a concept that I'm providing, and it could be online, a lot of these goods. You could buy most of them online. Now, I did mention about food, and if you're going to sell fresh foods, then you'd have to have a local commissary. But there's no reason that you couldn't, somehow set up some sort of a system with local grocers to just give subsidized prices for those if they don't stay fixed. And I believe we can do planning, and we might have some commodities which are naturally in flux, like, the price of blackberries is more of a luxury item. It doesn't necessarily have to be held steady, right? It's just certain goods we're talking about, giving them a fixed economy for certain kinds of goods that are related as directly as you can demonstrate to survival and sustenance. I did not talk about allocation, and this is why I'm going to use the word, confused, when you come back and tell me that I am talking in terms I'm not talking in. Maybe I'm supposed to say, no, you're not confused. I'm sorry I said those words I didn't say, or I'm not talking about allocating. This is why I'm saying you're confused by the framing. You hear engineered, plan, you'll hear all of this, and immediately you're into, oh, it's this totally controlled thing. No, I'm not talking. This is a small subsection. And within that subsection, I did not say we would allocate how many pens to a retiree gets. I said they would still get their fixed pension, and that the fact that they would have that pension would mean that they get to do resource allocation logic. I said that. Okay? They would have to decide how to spend their fixed pension, but we would give them a fixed economy, because deciding how to spend money that's basically a dwindling amount in a growth-oriented capitalist economy is not utilizing their resource management. It's starving them of resources. But if they had a fixed amount and a subset fixed economy where sustenance and commodity goods were available at cheap and, if necessary, subsidized prices, that you would have more control as the government over some product, some commodity whose price is skyrocketing. Okay, you could address that without just saying, well, we got to give more money to the pension. That more money maybe wouldn't even go to buying that product. So instead of letting the inflation in the price of one product just bleed out into a general inflation number and raising the pensions, when it really is localized to a particular product, you could address that. You either just subsidize that product in the commissary, which, at least it's going straight to the purchase of that product. Or, there's other ways. You can make agreements to find a cheaper source for it, or even produce it cheaper, and it's the government. You could have a long-term plan to produce something cheaper. But you seem to be taking the idea that, and it's not just that you're saying, oh, well, we can't do the high-tech engineering. You are reacting in your words here to just any kind of engineering planning. It's so complex. It's so complex. We'll point to the particular complexities, because, if I was saying, let's just run the whole economy this way, well, I could still propose that as a philosophical entity, but I'm not. I'm saying for pensioners, let's deal with pensioners this way. And you want to say that it's too complex to... We're giving them the money anyway. They have to use that money to buy what they need. How would letting them, buy government products and have a subsidized fixed economy, how would going into the supply, where we could get them supplies where there's no money wasted on marketing and packaging, and allow them to do their own allocation from among their funds, but in a fixed level where it's actually balanced, and you don't have the price of things just outstripping and paying no attention to their pension amount. You want to put up this this cloud of, oh, that's just too complex, you can never touch this stuff. It makes no sense to me. You have design, but you don't want to call it engineering. Why? Because it brings in this framing. So explain your engineering. Explain your design of how this stuff could work. Explain the current design we have. Is the current design that's just come about, is it too complex to explain? Because it exists. It involves planning and design. You keep us acting as if you assume that some planning means there's no market. No, a market is one of the the cogs, the gears, one of the pieces of the puzzle that you use to engineer this kind of thing. It's a certain kind of coupling. It has a certain kind of function in the system. You use that. But you don't want to call that kind of design and planning of utilizing that, which is what we have now. You don't want to call that engineering, because it brings in this engineering controlling frame. So that's why I said you're confused, because I think you're arguing a point that isn't conducive to the conversation. We're talking about what principles to use in designing our economy. You are too.